I haven't ever considered this a drafting class. We're focused on the models and the parts and assemblies. Drawing module is has a lot of horsepower, and even though I don't consider myself a drafter, it makes me a pretty good drafter detailer. So as you use it and you become more in tune with the types of things that you're manufacturing for, you'll make decisions and move in a direction that those dimensions and tolerancing practices will come to you. It's like anything else we're doing. It's multiple iterations, design reviews, input from various people, and keeping at it. So this is the ANSI Y14 fundamental rules tolerancing. One of the things that was always a mystery for me as related to drafting was we heard about the standards and they were some mysterious thing that existed out in the ether, and pretty much it had the standard rules for applying dimensions, recommendations, and at the end of the day, that's pretty much what they were is in your industry and your experience, you're going to have to make decisions, and within the company, follow those rules and practices that best suit what you're doing. So, if I minimize that, in the technical drafting book, we have pretty much the exact same thing. It's not specifically stated that this is a ANSI or ASME Y14.5 list, but in effect, what they're giving you is same things. Each dimension should be given clearly. Everything should be dimensioned, not duplicated, or if it's duplicated, it should be stated as a reference. Placement, and then going further into the types of things that let's see, where did I put it? Into extending into the sheet formats. So a portrait layout, the standard horizontal or landscape layouts, A, B, C size, D size, what you should include in your title block. Unfortunately, I I just think that this title block configuration takes up too much space and leaves kind of a dead area over here. And if you're putting notes or having something in there, it's kind of nice to have that space, but I like to lay it out a little different. And there's nothing that says that this is the only standard, the only format that you can use. So make it fit to what you're working with. And I was looking for the ISO recommendations, but ISO starts off with the larger A4. I'm not going to find it, so there we go. The A4 pretty much aligns to the A size, and then anything above goes into those specialized sizes. And it really comes down to what the width of your printer is. I've seen E size sheets that basically every one of these doubles in size. So if we rotate this to portrait, our 8.5 by 11 becomes 11 by 17, and then 11 by 17 for a C size can either be, let's see, how was that, the 22 by 34, and depending on which way you rotated it, and then D size doubles again, E size would double again. So E is a very large piece of paper to print for our geometry. And again, the title block, decide what is functional for your title block and the things you would be interested in. Another mysterious item that showed up that I never really had a good explanation for until I looked it up not too long ago, was when we talk about the projections unfolding the glass block that United States, we use the third angle projection. Well, what that means is this is lying in the third quadrant. There are parts of the world that use first angle projection, they're putting it into the first quadrant. So let's see, if we pull up our SolidWorks as an example, and I go into my part inch and I do 2 blocks. We'll let this catch up. So just on the front plane, I'm going to draw 2 blocks. They can be separate solid bodies just connected at the origin for a quick reference. Everything can kind of come out equal here, and I'll apply 1 dimension. So if this was a 2-inch, okay, 3-inch block, since we're close there, and let's just say I put a hole at the center, and those can be equal. I know I'm, for an example, just being consistent and fully defining these. So we'll position those at the midpoint and position those at the midpoint. So really what I'm trying to represent is the exact same part in the first and third quadrants. All right, so typically, and let's see, we made those 3 inches. So if I go into the features, extrude, and we pick our contours and regions, and I drag those out so that the front plane is our 0 plane, and it jumped to 3 inches, so good. All right, so the difference between third angle projection, let's see if I can maybe put a little bit of reference in here. So if we do green on that one, and right click and go to the appearance for that body, and I do blue on that one, we should have a pretty good, well, maybe not. Let's try something a little more, with a little more separation. Okay. All right, so as we rotate this and putting this into the glass box that they're referring to, we're looking at the front view, the top view, the right view, the left view, the back view, and the bottom view. And that is our standard third angle projection. So what that is giving us is when I look at the lower box and I go to the right view, I'm seeing that face as the right view. Well, in the first angle projection, I'm actually looking at the right side as well, but when I'm looking at in the direction of the right plane, I'm actually looking at that side. So they're fundamentally opposite. The second and the fourth quadrant, fourth angle projection, are considered duplicates because they would just be reproducing X and differences on the Y. So what ends up happening is I'm looking at in the direction of the top for the third angle and then going to the direction of the top from the first angle. So having been taught the third angle my whole drafting career, that has always been kind of confusing, and I'm sure for anybody that's been taught first angle projection, third angle is equally confusing, but those are the kind of the thought processes that we're dealing with. All right, so one of the things we want to do is, as an optional exercise, I'm going to open up a drawing, and we're just going to pick the ANSI standard landscape. All right, and mentioning the standards, and no, I don't want to insert anything just yet. ANSI is kind of the standards, what do we call it, the application or the approval body, where ASME, SAE, they submit the standards and become part of the process. So when as ANSI as a governing body determines and sets the standard for just about everybody. So when we go into a drawing, we have the sheet format, and I can edit the sheet format from this location. Most of the time, I'm going to go just right click and edit sheet format, And so this is always described as taking a piece of plastic mylar and putting it over your paper. And we're putting all of our drawing information on that piece of mylar, and when I strip the mylar away, then I get to the sheet format. So as I mentioned, I kind of think this title block is not very efficient for what I'm trying to do. So I'm not going to keep any of this. Last time I stripped out everything, we went to the blank sheet. I don't know that that was very functional, but we go ahead and delete those out, and then we have something that we can start from scratch with. So making just a basic education type template. I'll go into the line, we'll attach it, and go from side to side. Let's see if my my line thicknesses are in place. Doesn't look at it. These are a little bit thicker. So I'm horizontal, and this is one of the only places I really use the the parameters. So it's showing at 10. All right. Well, I don't know in reference to the scale really what I'm looking at. So I'm going to highlight one of the, if I can separate those out, looks like they made those into a little more of a block. So maybe we'll just call that good for now, and oh, there it goes, 1/2 inch to X as a point value. Oh, and 10 is the overall length. All right, so gotta remember how to decipher these. So I'm a 1/2 inch up, and the Y position 1.4, or 1/2 inch in, 1.4. Let's make that 1.5, so I got consistent. And then normally, oh, I jumped out of it before I could have picked it. Normally I would say don't fix, but since I've entered the parameters and fix, I want that to be my title block. All right, so if we put in notes, and I come over to the annotation, things I would be interested in are the file name and the project, the designer, drawing, detailer, drafter, so drawn by, and the date. Let's see, we'll put that out. Another one. We need one of our, all dimensions will be tolerance. That means that if there is a tolerance block somewhere, I would have .xx equals plus minus. So I need a symbol. And we'll come over here to the CLs and give it a plus minus. And I want to be kind of generous, so usually a 64th plus minus 15 thousandths is pretty good. And depending on the industry, it may be 10, maybe 20, maybe 30. It just, so what ends up happening is on the manufacturing side, if it gets too wide, it actually makes things more complicated. So, and in my opinion, again, so want to just go ahead and Control C and Control V. And so a standard industry tolerance for 3 decimal places is going to be 5. For 4 decimal places, I'm trying to keep those caps. And we'll paste it once more. And let's make that, I'm being generous again, 1,000th. All right, so sometimes it'll be a 1/2 thousandth, depending on the process. Could be a couple of tenths, 0.002 or 0.005. Angular will equal, and when you stretch that out just a little, okay, maybe not that much. All right, need to escape out of that so I can get back in. There we go. See the box being a little difficult. So there we go. So I like plus or minus 1 degree. So we'll go find our degree symbol. And that kind of covers all the basics. So to get rid of that note, which I clicked into, and that it's graying out is a little bit annoying, but all right, we'll put that up. That so other things, I guess I got a couple more in there. All right. So anything else that you would want to kind of streamline this? I'll probably add a few more as we go. So I'm going to bring in one more note and the file name. We're going to create a link to the current document. All right. So current document, and the property name will be the file name, drawing one. If we haven't set a property for the drawn by, then this would be something that I would want to manually enter. So I'm going to bring that up and get it a little bit closer. And I should be getting inference lines. So got a little pop-up of yellow there. So I could go ahead, and if I'm the only one using this, I can enter my name and the date, whatever we want to put in as format. Okay, so year, month, date, year. All right, and then we might want to have things like the material and the finish, which if we build those into the properties, we'll use those and be a little more functional later on. And then we'll figure out what to add later on. Material and finish. And then I'll just add that. As a group. Okay, so those are basically the placeholders, and those are the shapes. So apparently I clicked again. Yeah, doesn't seem like so I don't know if that's a ghost or if it's an image. Anyway, the drawing will show up. I'll deal with that one in a minute. The drawing file name is in blue because it's a link. These are items that I could potentially change. So let's go in, and I want to do title block fields and a title block table. This is going to be areas that I can manually edit. So I think I can only do one, but we're going to try to do two. So the text fields. Has more than one line of text. All right, so we have to include just those items. So that was how they got around that. So let's Control X, and I will backspace. And we'll put in a new note. And I haven't named these or anything, so let's go ahead into the finish. I'll get that lined up. So one of the ways I could denote these would be to stay with the all caps on the field names, and then the lowercase on the ones that are editable. So title block fields, we'll go into that area. Well, that's moving it and not shrinking it. Okay, so that's the area that I'm going to work with. Note, 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 and note. Okay, so we'll see if this is going to work. So if I double click, I can update the name. I can put in today's date and overwrite the existing the existing field, and we go ahead and hit OK. That gets us out of it. So I want to put it back just in case it messes me up when I save the template here. And then I would go in and put in the material, finish, some of those other notes. All right, so let's save this, and I want to save this as the sheet format first. So under our file, save sheet format, and the sheet format is keeping track. Notice all of the SLD DRTs. And if I've set my file locations correctly, I should be able to figure out where I put this. All right, so I had to go find my Google Drive since it updated to my drive. It's not doing exactly what I would like it to do, so I just located that folder and pinned it to the quick access. Here are my SolidWorks template, and this can be my A size, or if it's a company name, any of that type, we'd be able to pick for it. All right, so we'll go ahead and rebuild, make sure everything's current on the properties. This is one that's always been kind of a challenge. Let's see. Trouble updating. Yeah, my internet's not working very fast today, so we'll let it, as long as it's saving it locally, it should be okay. And to add additional sheets, it needs to point to that sheet format that I just created. So apparently it did not save it. Okay, so we'll try again. I saved it again to the my A size in the templates, SW templates. Sure, it's not going to make Google My Drive very happy for me to say that if that doesn't work, I'm either going to put it in Dropbox or Microsoft OneDrive, and whichever one the company has adopted, that's pretty much what we're going to live with. So. Properties does not show up, so I'm going to go ahead and customize this menu. I don't often delete from here, so I'm going to take off the delete and change it and accept the properties, so that when I right click I can go into its properties. This puts me into the sheet properties. So we mentioned first angle and third angle projection. This is where we're going to locate those at. The sheet format of choice then, if I come over to the system, there's my A size for the, so that means way back when we went into the options and set the file locations and I set the sheet format, that was applied correctly. And modified, you want these deleted. Let's go ahead and make sure that whatever changes are not creating the problem there. All right, so that puts it in the background, but when I go to new, and my SOLIDWORKS templates, I don't see that just yet. So I want to file, save as. We're looking for a drawing template, so a DRW DOT. And then I'm going to navigate back to my system, into the templates, and I'm just going to give it the exact same name, my A size sheet, and save it. All right, so the test comes in that I close this out, because if I had looked up here before I did that, I would see that it still said .drwdot, and any part, anything that I draw or create in that template and save it, is going to try to uh, come in or be linked to that template. So if I um, have something kind of predefined, that can come in handy, but most of the time it can be a nuisance. All right, so templates and not there. Interesting. Okay, so in the process of assigning drive letters to my the new Google My Drive folders, seems that I lost at least part of the information. So I had to go into the, let's do that real quick, go into the options, go to the file locations, and make sure that my document templates were pointed to the right place. So now when I go into new, I can see my A size. And what that's, instead of it being the DRW DOT, it asked me to insert the drawing. I can also do the view palette, and we'll get further into those. But I have enough to get started. So if I close that, the one thing I want to check, I can add an additional sheet. And if it comes in with the same, if it comes in with something else, then setting those properties didn't work. So drawing templates and sheet formats are always a little bit complicated. Hopefully these are all set up for you, but going through this simple exercise, well, complex simple exercise just to create a basic template will give you an idea of where at least the base information is coming from, and then we can get more complicated with adding links and properties back to the parts.